The government's finances are set to soften in the next couple of years as deferred spending and new policies bite into budget surpluses. Unveiling the mid-year look at the government's books, the Finance Minister today also outlined his priorities for next year's inaugural so-called wellbeing budget. So where does Grant Robertson plan to target taxpayer dollars? Here's our Deputy Political Editor, Chris Bramwell.
Grant Robertson unveiled his plans for next year's budget with 5 main priorities. They focus on a transition to a sustainable economy, improving the lives of Māori and Pacifica, supporting New Zealand in the digital age, reducing child poverty, and supporting mental health with a focus on under 24-year-olds. Budget 2019 will be the coalition government's first wellbeing budget, which will use measures like social and natural capital to measure the health of the nation, along with economic growth. Grant Robertson rejects any suggestion the measures are fluffy, saying they're what people think about in their daily lives.
They're concerned about the mental and physical health of their friends and their family. They want there to be communities in which they feel safe and secure. So I think these are actually the very issues that New Zealanders care about. Of course, we all care about having a strong economy to enable us to have choices.
The economy is expected to grow at close to 3% over the next 2 years, supported by low interest rates, increased government spending and a stronger global economy. But Grant Robertson's keeping a wary eye on the international outlook, especially the United States-China trade dispute and global growth. He says he's been reading reports from the International Monetary Fund which have some pessimism about a global downturn.
I'm not yet ready to say that that's going to happen, but New Zealand needs to be prepared for it, and I believe we are well prepared for it. We are resilient. We have the capacity in the economic settings that we have to be able to respond to those international trends.
Bank of New Zealand economist Craig Ebert says the global outlook does add a tinge of uncertainty to the government's plans.
But that doesn't mean that there aren't internal risks to think through as well, but they were presented in this document, so the things to think about around the housing market, the situation with business confidence and those sorts of things. But again, for the moment, the economy seems to be progressing largely in line with how the Treasury is forecasting it to do for the near term.
Budget surpluses are lower than forecast in the May budget as spending put off last year is accounted for and new policies put in place. The surplus for the current fiscal year is forecast to shrink to $1.7 billion, but then jump back up in the years after that to reach $7.6 billion by 2022. Unemployment's expected to hold around 4% and wage growth to pick up, due in part to improved productivity, while interest rates are expected to stay low for longer and businesses are expected to keep investing and hiring. In question time this afternoon, National's finance spokesperson Amy Adams laid into Mr Robertson, saying the increasing tax take means the government's squeezing too much out of New Zealanders.
Today's HIFU figures show that this Labour-led government will be collecting $17.7 billion more tax from New Zealanders over the next 4 years than was forecast prior to the election, despite growth having slowed.
Mr Speaker, the reason that that tax take is happening is because lots of people around New Zealand and lots of businesses around New Zealand are working hard, making profits and ensuring that the economy ticks over. I think it's a sad day when the National Party think that people actually doing well and paying their taxes is a bad thing.
The government remains on track to meet its budget responsibility rules, including reducing net debt to 20% of GDP by 2022, delivering economic surpluses and keeping spending below 30% of GDP. Atu i te whare pāri mata mō te hōtaka o te ahi pōnei, ko Chris Bramwell.